Good evening. I'd like to call the Zoning Board of Appeals for Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 to order. Will the city call the roll, please?
Ms. Defoe?
Here.
Ms. Lesney?
Here.
Mr. Weigum?
Present.
Mr. Rogers?
Here.
Mr. Friedman?
Here.
Madam Chairperson, you have a quorum to conduct business.
Thank you. Are there any communications?
Not at this time.
Okay, so we'll move into the public hearing. For those of you who haven't joined us, let me give you a brief description of how we operate. The city will call each case by the case number. They'll read a short summary of the case. We ask you as the appellant to step forward to the podium. There's a sign-in sheet if you'll sign your name and address there as well. We ask you to state your name and address for the record. Speak clearly and close to the mic. You can move the mics move around anywhere you need them to go, because sometimes it can be difficult to hear in this room, so it's really important that we can hear you. And explain to us what you're asking for and why you're asking for it. Then the city will read the findings of fact. We ask you to agree with those or add anything that you'd like to at that time. And then we'll open it to public comment. So if there's anybody from the public who wishes to speak on that specific case, that would be your opportunity to step forward, ask any questions, state your opinion about what request is being asked. And then we'll close public comment and turn it over to the board to deliberate on that case and then move on to the subsequent cases. Okay? So will the city call the first case, please?
Yes, for ZBA case 1928, the appellant, Clayton Westorp and Paige Melky, owners, are requesting the following waivers from the board: to erect a fence beyond the side of the house along a double frontage yard, 0 feet permitted, 56 feet proposed; to erect a fence in a front yard, and the use of an uncoated chain link fence material. Property is located on the west side of Ingleside Drive between Beach Road and Telegraph Road at 25072 Ingleside Drive, Sidwell parcel 2415126-005, zoned RA, single family residential. This appeals to section 5.37-1, article 4, paragraph C1, subsection A, subsection D, and subsection G, more commonly known as the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Is the appellant here? Hi there. Good evening.
Good evening. Clayton Westorp
Paige Melky.
at 25072 Ingleside Drive. We're here today to ask for the allowance to erect a fence on our property that extends beyond the front yard. Based on our lot dimensions, we're at the corner of Ingleside Drive and 10 Mile between Beach and Telegraph. Our house sits to the west side of the property, where if we were to erect a fence in what is traditionally the backyard or to the posterior side of the house, it would limit our yard to about 20 feet wide, and although being very long, it would be a very narrow yard. So we're asking to fence from the southeast corner of our house towards Ingleside Drive, towards the property line, follow the property line south as it curves along the road, and bring it back along the south side of the property, and connect it near the adjacent fence on the adjacent property to the west. We're looking to fence in a decent section of our yard. We have a golden retriever, a dog that we take care of. He's 3 years old. He's really part of our family, and we want to have an enclosed area for him to be in. We're both athletic trainers. We work what is traditionally a second shift through the school systems, and our hours vary greatly depending on what season it is or time of the year. Sometimes we might work 5 hours a day, sometimes we might work 15 hours a day, and we'd like the ability for him to stay outside for most of the day with an enclosed yard. We do have, we've already pre-installed a dog door on the back side so that he has an area to get into the house to have shelter, but we'd like him to be able to access the yard. We also would like a larger fenced-in area for potential family. We're very young, but if we decide to have a family here in the future in Southfield, to have a nice, safe, enclosed area. In addition to that, the Riverwood subdivision or Riverwood Estates area is very, I don't want to say rural because we're in
Woodsy.
a very woodsy
We
area.
have a lot of deer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of deer and wildlife. We've seen coyotes out there, rabbits, deer frequently. Our dog is not very aggressive, but he will chase a wild animal if it's in the yard, so we'd like to have confidence that he's in the yard safely. In addition to that, part of the ordinance requires specific materials for the fencing, and we would like to use uncoated chain link fence rather than the black coated vinyl to match the fence that's on the west side of the property, because we will be matching up to the corner of that fence, and we just like it all to be the same color.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Stay right there for us. We're going to ask the city to read the findings of fact.
The appellant Clayton Westdorp and Peggy Milky owners are requesting the following waiver from the board. To erect the fence beyond the side of the house along a double frontage yard, 0 permitted, 56 feet proposed. To erect the fence in the front yard, to use an uncoated chain link fence. The property is located on the west side of Ingleside Drive between Beach Road and Telegraph Road at 25072 Ingleside Drive, Sidwell Parcel 2415126-005, zoned RA, single family residential. The properties on the southeast across from Ingleside and the west are zoned RE, single family residential, and are developed with single family dwellings. In the supervisor's plat of the Riverwood Estates subdivision. To the north of the properties are zone R2, single-family residential, developed with the single-family dwelling fronting onto the west 10-mile road, RT, multifamily residential, low-rise developed with the Greenbrook condominiums. Field inspection of the surrounding properties reveal limited fencing as the properties are very large in scale. Some properties, including the appellants, and sites abutting have older non-coated chain link fence. The appellant's parcel contains a driveway along Ingleside and does the home front entrance. Extensive shrubs and trees exist along the property's fence line along the Ingleside Street frontage. Let's see, the site is legal non-conforming parcel, which is a unique curved shape. The placement of the dwelling is also legal non-conforming in regards to the rear yard setback. The dwelling was built in 1947 prior to the incorporation of the city zoning ordinance. The owner proposing to install an uncoated chain link fence, assuming to match the height and existing fence at the rear of the property along the Ingleside Street curve right of way, starting at the south side of the dwelling and extending to the south side property line, but into the property to the west. The fifth ordinance requires the fence on double frontage lot to align with the side of the house and extend to the rear of the lot. The appellant is seeking a waiver for 56 feet beyond the front of the house. 56 feet proposed, 0 feet permitted to the side yard, 0 feet permitted, 50 to 44 feet proposed.
Okay, thank you. Do you agree with those facts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything else you want to add?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, no problem. We'll give you ample time, no worry. Will the city read the staff recommendation, please?
Staff recommendations is for favorable consideration of a waiver 56 feet beyond the front of the house, 56 feet recommended, 0 feet permitted to the side yard, 0 feet permitted, 50 to 44 feet recommended, as submitted in order to install a coated chain link fence matching the height of the existing fence at the site. With the following considerations: the fence must be made of chain link material coated as requested by ordinance. The fence must comply with all other fence requirements. The landscaping must be maintained or enhanced to block the visibility of the fence as much as possible. These recommendations is based upon the following. The parcel is a unique shape which provides for almost no rear yard area to the fence, and due to the location of the dwelling on the lot. The fence is back 20 feet from the street and blocked somewhat by existing landscaping. Requiring the fence to be coated should reduce the visibility of the fence during the non-winter months and increase the durability during the elements. Corner clearance visibility will be maintained by the fence located at the south side of the property, away from the corner of Ingleside and 10 Mile Road.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything you want to add at this time? Again, this won't be your last opportunity, but we'd open it up to public comment and then turn it over to the board, who would likely have questions for you as well.
I heard the 56 and then the 40 to 50 off the south side. Did you guys mention the roughly 150 foot connecting that from the south, very south section all the way up towards the house?
Along the curve of the road.
Correct. If I might, through the chair to the appellant, it's exactly as you're proposing.
Okay.
So it's going to be 56 feet from the corner of your home, the southwest corner of your home, I guess you would say? Southeast corner of your home? Southeast corner of your home, out to where you have it on your plans, and then following the curve. So it's a little hard to do the actual calculation for how far it is. So a portion of it is 56 feet in the front yard, but then as you start going along that curve, you're actually at a certain point, you're ending up in the side yard.
Right.
So there's two things you're really asking for.
So this part doesn't count, because that part is fine.
Okay.
Anything else?
The only other comment, I know at least a few of you came out to look at the property. Really the entire south side of the property, besides next to the house, is hidden by trees and bushes and shrubs. It was actually pretty overgrown when we purchased the property a couple months ago, and we did a lot of trimming back there. But basically, the section of the fence that would really be the most visible would be obviously the part coming off of the corner of the house going towards the road, and then
Pretty
15 to 20 feet coming south, and then the rest of it is pretty hidden by shrubs and trees and bushes.
Okay, sounds good. Why don't you guys have a seat in the front row, and we'll open it up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public here who wishes to speak on this case? Please step forward and state your name and address, please, for the record. And if you'll sign in at that sign-in sheet that's on the podium as well.
Put the microphone down a little bit so we can hear you. Thank you.
There we go.
Yes, sir. I hate this to be my introduction to my neighbors, but I'm the president of, my name is Gail Mazie, I'm president of the Oakland Village Civic Association, in which this property sits. P.O. Box, I just can write it down? Okay.
Yeah, you can write it down. We also need you to state it for the record, please.
Okay. We discussed, first of all, I used to get notices as the president of the association of anything that was coming before you. I did not get any notice of this, and I seldom get, but fortunately did this time, get the Southfield Sun. So I looked at it, I took it to our last board meeting, and one of our members lives kitty corner across the street from you on Ingleside, and we're just, our biggest concern is the appearance issue, and that's why the uncoated chain link fence is a bit of an issue. It's so visible. I mean, I go by it constantly, and it just, not what I think was contemplated when the ordinance was passed. I mean, the whole idea was that it's an appearance issue. It's also an issue of not having, everything fenced in to look as though we're an armed camp. And so that's my only concern.
Okay.
And like I said, I feel bad to meet them this way. But that house has changed hands many times. And it's a difficult property. I mean, there's almost no property behind the house. And I understand that, and we talked about it. The other thing thought I heard him say was that the dog was going to be out most of the time?
Not most of the time.
Well, I'm just for their sake, I hope that doesn't create another issue with, some of the neighbors. We have a lot of elderly folk in the vicinity, and it's just one of those things.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this case? Hi there. Again, if you'll just state your name and address for the record and then sign in for us too, please.
Okay, hi, my name's Annette Gladney Steele, and I reside at 2528 Ingleside Drive, and I'm sorry.
Yep,
but
if you could
I-
lift the microphone up for
Oh,
you, you're slightly
yeah.
taller, thank you.
Yeah, I just have a concern in regards to the uncoated, the chain link fence, and I just don't think that it would blend well with the surroundings. It's a very natural setting with, like you mentioned, a lot of deers and wild animals, and that's one of the things that attracted me to the area 8 years ago, and I'd like to see it remain that way.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes to speak on this case? Otherwise, we'll close public comment and turn it over to the board. Ms. Leslie?
Let's see, I'll start with the coating first. Your other fencing is pretty old, so why would you want to match a very old fencing, which is going to probably fall apart? I'm not wishing that on you, but just the fact of life. I think that you will have to upgrade also, otherwise you'll be here asking for a waiver. And there's no hardship here. I think that you need to follow the rules of the city and have a coated fence. I understand the woman, I forgot what your name is, but the lady's concern about openness. But I also am concerned, the way your lot is situated, right behind you, your neighbor is like right up to your fence, and there's no place to put anything. And this lot is not a normal, rectangular city lot that that this would apply to for most neighborhoods. And it's a lovely area, and I drove up and around and to see what else was out there, and it's just charming. And but I can see why you need to have the fence there. But it will be behind all the bushes that are there, not in front of them, correct?
Correct.
Correct, okay. So that will hide a good part of it. And there are a lot of people with fencing covering their yards and lots of different permutations of size and shape. So I will go along with their request to have the fence in the shape that they requested, but not for them to no waiver for the coating.
Okay, sounds good. Mr. Friedman?
I too, I don't see any reason why you need a waiver from the city's ordinance requiring a coated fence. On the other hand, your property being on the corner, we've seen a few of these now. Either the west side or the south side has to be considered your backyard. One of them has to, and if you want to have this fence, you need something. And so I would go along with that too, again, with no waiver for the uncoated fencing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Weigum?
On the boundary of your property on the, I guess you'd say, the east side, you've got some just absolutely gorgeous spruce trees. Very old, and there is almost a wildlife corridor along there. I went back in and I saw the red stakes. Is that where the fence is going to be? Because I would hate to have you think that you're going to go cut those trees down.
He's not cutting the trees down.
You guys can step back up to the podium, please. Thank you.
No, we will not be cutting the trees down. We are going to put the fence just inside of it. Where you saw those stakes, that's the property line, so we'll be going.
You'll go along
that.
where those stakes are, because I saw the stakes.
It'll go
Okay.
follow the shape of the stakes, probably at least 1.5 feet off of them towards the middle of the yard. But we do want to, we saw there's a couple, like where the stakes go, it's like between trees in a couple spots. We do intend to go on, it would be the west side of it, towards the middle of the yard to maintain the trees. Yeah, what's standing there currently as far as foliage and trees, we do intend to keep.
The fence in the front, now, I wasn't really clear, and you wanted to put that in there because you have a boundary right now of vegetation all around your property, except on the corner there.
Right.
What was the reasoning for that? Why do you need a fence?
Well, we have a dog currently.
So it's for a dog?
For right now, because we're currently having to go outside with him every time he needs to go outside.
You're not going to put any kangaroos in there?
No, no. And then if we decide to have children in the future, it would obviously be a safety factor too.
Well, as far as the lady talked about not fitting in and seeing it, basically you won't see your fence all along here. It's totally vegetated. You need to have it coated. The board will not go along with an uncoated fence. And as my colleague said, the fence in the back is looking shabby, and when you go to replace that, you're going to replace it again with a coated fence. Other than that, you have a very lovely property. I hope you appreciate it. It's very lovely to drive down there, and so I will go along with the city.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rogers?
I'm in favor, just like everybody else on the board, for all the various reasons. I don't really have anything else to add. I think whether the fence is coated or not, I think you're still going to see when the leaves drop. So, but if you're looking at it from an appearance, it looks better than, rusty metal after 10 years. And it's hard to develop a property like this. They probably shouldn't let a house that big be on it the way it's sitting and stuff, but it is what it is. And I feel bad that the neighborhood has a committee that's sitting here tonight concerned about the appearance of things in their neighborhood. That's important to me as well. But at the same time, there is enough vegetation that does block that proposed fence area. In a perfect world, maybe the fence that's coming off the corner of the house towards Ingleside, maybe some, low-lying, landscaping in front of it in time, so that people come in off a 10-mile, the fence is almost masked by vegetation. Maybe that's something down the road that you'll plug and play. But other than that, I'm in favor of it.
Sounds good. Yep, I agree. And yeah, I think you have a lovely property and you all live in a lovely neighborhood. And hopefully requiring the coated fence will satisfy the neighbors and obviously ordinance, but get you the space, outdoor space, and, safe space for your dog and your family. So, Ms. Leslie, will you make a motion for me?
Sure. Regarding case 19-28, where the appellant Clayton, Westdorp, and Page Milky,
Yes.
did I do it right?
Milky.
Oh, okay. Are requesting to erect a fence beyond the side of the house along a double frontage yard, 0 permitted, 56 feet proposed, to erect a fence in the front yard and use of an uncoated chain link fence to the property located on the west side of Ingleside Drive between Beach Road and Telegraph Road, 25072 Ingleside Drive. I move that we grant the waivers for, to erect the fence on the side, beyond the side of the house, and to erect a fence in the front yard, and to deny them to deny the use of an uncoated chain link fence. The chain link fence is required by ordinance. The fence must comply with all other fence requirements. Landscaping must be maintained or enhanced to block the visibility of the fence as much as possible. This motion is based on the fact that the parcel is a unique shape, which provides for almost no rear yards area to fence in due to the location of the dwelling on the lot. The fencing is set back 20 feet from the street and blocked somewhat by existing landscaping. Requiring the fence to be coated should reduce the visibility of the fence during the non-winter months and increase its durability to the elements. Corner clearance visibility be maintained by the fence location at the south side of the property, away from the corner of Ingleside and 10 Mile Road. And I think I just want to add that in no way this fence is not covering the front of the house.
Okay. Can I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
One comment. It says requiring the fence to be coated should reduce the visibility of the fence during the non-winter months. It should be during the winter months. The non-winter months, there's a whole
Yeah, you're right,
foliage.
you're right. During the winter months.
During the winter months. Got it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
All right. Thank you. Your request is granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for living in Southfield. All right, will the city call the next case, please?
For ZBA case 1929, the appellant Gaylord W. Turk, owner, is requesting the following from the board for a waiver of 4.5% of lot coverage, 25% allowed, 29.5% proposed to install a shed. Property is located on the west side of Plumbrook Drive between Lasser and Evergreen Roads at 23867 Plumbrook Drive, Sidwell parcel 2427401. 012, zoned R2, single-family residential. This appeal is to Section 5.193, Article 22, which is the Schedule of Regulations, Chapter 45 of the Southfield City Code, more commonly known as the zoning ordinance.
Hi there. Good evening.
Evening.
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name is Gaylord Winsford Turk. My wife and I live at 23867 Plumbrook Drive in Southfield.
Thank you.
We originally purchased the home at this address to use as our personal residence in May 1993. The 8x10 shed that now exists on the property was already in place when we purchased the property. The existing shed sits directly on ground soil. I installed a half-inch MSB plywood as a floor many years ago to provide more stability for stacking my deck furniture to the ceiling. We have maintained the property in very good condition over the 26 years of our residency, utilizing the existing shed for winter storage of deck furniture, small tools, and small equipment. At present, the shed has deteriorated to a point where it is no longer fully enclosed due to missing siding that the wind has blown away. Also, the sliding door system doesn't work properly, presenting a security problem. We have an immediate need to replace the shed so we can properly protect our property. As I understand the city ordinance, due to the large size of my home on a small lot, I'm required to request a zoning waiver impacting approximately 185 square feet of my property. This will allow me to replace my shed that is 8x10 presently with a new shed that I'm proposing to be 8x15 or 8x20. Depending on availability. This will amount to an increase of 40 to 80 square feet of additional area that will be under roof as opposed to what I have now. I respectfully request your approval of my request and that you grant me the necessary waiver permitting me to proceed with my proposal. All consideration given will be greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you very much. Will the city read the findings of fact, please?
Sure. For ZBA case 1929, the appellant Gaylord W. Turk, owner, is requesting the following from the board for a waiver of 4.5% of lot coverage, 25% permitted, 29.5% proposed to install a shed. Property is located on the west side of Plumbrook Drive between Lasser and Evergreen Roads at 23867 Plumbrook Drive, Sidwell parcel 2427401-012, zoned R2, single-family residential. Properties to the north, south, and east across Plumbrook and west are zoned R2, single-family residential, and are developed with single-family dwellings in the Plumbrook Estates subdivision. Field inspections of the surrounding area reveal there are a mixture of multi- and single-story dwellings. The exteriors are made of brick and various siding. Dwellings in this area have mostly attached garages, with a few properties having detached garages ranging in size from 1 to 2.5 car capacity. The appellant's has a 2.5 car garage. Neighboring properties to the south and east across Plumbrook have much deeper rear yards. However, starting with the appellant's property and to the north into the cul-de-sac, properties have smaller yards due to the original platting of the subdivision. The subject home was built in 1963 and is 2,557.24 square feet in area, and that's the ground floor only, without the large overhang calculated. Constructed with a brick and sided exterior. The subject property has an existing deck, which covers a majority of the rear yard, including a slight encroachment into the easement at the rear. Current sheds at the site include a 77.7 square feet steel shed at a 0 setback from the side yard, 3 feet is required, and a small plastic shed next to it, approximately 6 square feet in area, also at a 0 setback from the side property line. The steel shed also currently extends into the easement at the rear of the property. Neither existing shed has the required rat wall. The dwelling does meet all setback requirements and minimum lot size. The lot coverage is legal non-conforming, and it is currently 28.4%, and that's a little change from the legal notice. 25% is the maximum for just the dwelling. The addition of the current sheds, the steel and the small plastic shed, which were never permitted or approved, obviously back when they were installed, increases the lot coverage to 29.3% as it exists. The lot coverage of surrounding properties ranges from 14% to 28.4%, which is the appellant's, with most ranging in the low 20%. The appellant proposes to replace the 2 existing sheds with one 8x15, 120 square foot shed at a 2-foot side yard setback. It is unclear from what was provided if the shed would still encroach into the rear easement. This proposal would increase the lot coverage to 30.6%.
Okay, thank you. Do you agree with those facts, or do you have anything you'd like to add?
Those square footages are a little different than what I had, but I'm sure you're probably more accurate than my pacing.
Okay. Okay, so anything to add to the facts at this point? No? Okay.
No, that about covers it.
Okay, no, that's fine. Like I said, this won't be your last opportunity to say something, so no worries.
Okay.
Will the city read the staff recommendation, please?
Sure. Staff's recommendation is to deny the waivers of additional lot coverage and required setback for the accessory structure. This recommendation is based on the following. The increase in lot coverage is excessive compared to the dwellings in the surrounding area. The parcel already has limited open areas in the rear and side yards. The proposed shed would be at a maximum of 2 foot from the side lot line and would also most likely have to encroach into the existing utility easement. And the minimum setback from the side yard is 3 feet for any accessory building. The dwelling has a 501 square foot, 2.5 car garage for storage at the current time.
Okay, thank you. Anything you'd like to add? Or
That puts a pretty big burden on me. I have 3 cars. One I don't even keep on site. 2 cars in the garage. I have no storage. I have no place to keep it. I have counters in the garage. The storage space underneath, I can't put small equipment or my lawn furniture in there with the cars. So with that shed was available at the time, that's where my furniture would go. Without this shed, I have no place to put any lawn furniture that I have. I have a side patio, and I have a relatively large deck in the rear. In the summer, I have furniture set out. So to deny me the opportunity to protect that furniture, I'll just have space that won't be usable. I won't have the furniture. I didn't know that this ordinance existed when I bought the home. I had no way of knowing that I couldn't use it for storage, and I've been using it for years, and I've got furniture in it now that to capacity. I've been buying these small storage cabinets to try to store one's on the side of the house, one is back near that shed, but I'm maxed out. So denying me, I don't know what I'm gonna do with I can't replace the one I've got. I've got nothing. This leaves me with less under roof than I had when I started. The shed that I have now it's open on two sides because it's deteriorating. So this puts deny this puts a burden on me.
Okay. Okay, let's, I don't see anyone here, so we'll open public comment quickly and close it, and then turn it over to the board for discussion. Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, this case is not clear-cut as far as I'm concerned. I don't agree with the recommendation.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you don't agree with.
I do not agree with the city's recommendation.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And it starts with, first of all, there's a big natural area that butts up to the rear of these properties and swings all the way around. You know, if there was houses that abutted to the back of his property, and you were looking at the shed and it was encroaching in the side yard and the rear yard, and you'd probably go ask the city what the setbacks are supposed to be, and you might get a little upset if you find out it's not in the right area or it's too big or whatever. But there's no natural neighbors to the backside that they're looking at this all the time, and this is an issue. I am concerned about having a shed that encroaches on an easement that could be a utility easement. So you could put all this money and time into putting a shed up, rat walls and all that, and you can have Edison tell you the shed's moving because we're doing service work or sewer work or whatever. So I am concerned about that. There's probably no utilities along the side yard between you and your adjoining neighbor. So whether you can maintain the 2 feet minimum required or the 3 feet that's supposed to be, I don't know if there's any play in there. But I would certainly want to have an occupant, a resident of the city who takes care of their home for 26 years and is kind of caught up in some of the the legalities of when the subdivision was platted and when, how big the house was. I mean, they're kind of coming along and inheriting whatever they've inherited. So I kind of look at a little bit of everything, how they maintain the property, the appearance of what the shed would look like. I don't think there's anything wrong with taking 2 old sheds and making a nice new one. Okay, so how big is this new one? One of the things that you had mentioned was possibly 8 by 20. Unless you're pulling the shed forward.
I'm pulling it forward toward the patio.
Towards the patio, right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it would,
but that probably would be an increase in the lot coverage percentage. So I don't know. I'm looking at the fact, if you want to look at the technical aspect of the fact that you're at 28.4%, which is the highest coverage, but your house is covered more, is bigger, your lot's smaller, the rear yard's all, that's fine. The amount of space that is, the more coverage from adding this shed, or eliminating the 2 sheds is not, it's like, what, 2 or 3%? It's not enough to sway my decision on that either. So I've kind of looked at every aspect of this.
I mean, I think it's actually 1.1%, because he's at 28.4 now, asking for 29.5. So
Right.
that's 1.1%
Okay,
change.
so if that's the case, it's not even, if he was asking for 5%, something, it would jolt me and maybe say, but there's too many things here that I'm in favor of that I would not go along with the city's recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Wygum?
The city does not count apparently decks as part of the coverage. Yet, in effect, it is. It covers the ground. Why is that?
Because, if I might, through the chair to Mr. Weigand, because it doesn't impact the open space. Now, if the deck had sides on it or a roof on it, then it would impact the open space. But it's similar to if you had a concrete patio or if you had a paver patio, it's the same thing. You still have open area, it's just something, on the ground.
Yeah, but it keeps this man
Yes.
from putting a shed up because he's got a deck there.
We don't count that, though.
I understand that.
The only reason it does is because it takes up physical space.
Exactly.
On the
Physical
lot.
space, right now, there's no physical space to put his shed.
Right.
I went through and I did some calculations on your lot. And by the way, your house is very nice, and you've kept it up very nice. It's a nice house. And I calculated coverage, including that deck back there, 40%. 40% of that lot is covered by house structures, and that does not include the shed. To me, when they built that, it was wrong. You don't just take the lot. I mean, they might as well build it right total. It makes no sense to me. And you as a homeowner, you have to live with that. You've got a 2.5 car garage, and that's fine. But most of us, I got a big lot, but I don't have a shed. And, I have to make do with what I have. And so, from my perspective, I go right along with the city on this. There's just too much lot coverage, and there's no room for anything. And I go along with the city.
All right, Ms. Leslie?
Yes, I was wondering if you have ever given any consideration to moving it to I guess that would be the south side of the lot in the rear. It looks like there's more space back there than there is on the north side.
South side corner, that's a rock garden that's there.
It's a rock garden?
It's a rock, I've got a garden back there that's, it's flowers. I call it a rock garden, but it's where my wife keeps her flowers and things. And it's next to a lower deck walkout. Getting the elevation of where that open space is where the rock garden is, my lower deck is about 3-4 feet lower than that area. So getting to it would be an issue. Getting stuff into it, going up and down the stairs, there's some things that are pretty decent. But if that's what I'd have to do, I guess that's all I've got. But that's not the ideal place to put it, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a hardship that your lot is smaller than most of the lots, I think all of the lots on this subdivision. And the mitigating factor is that you have woods all around you.
Yes.
So you have no rear neighbors that you're going to be crowding out unless it's the squirrels. I mean, just nothing. So you have your neighbors to the north and your neighbors to the south and across the street. So your neighbors to the north and south are impacted by this, but your neighbors to the rear, which would be like the west, there is no neighbor to the west.
Right.
I think you should have a shed somehow, but I don't think it can be, what are the problems, that if I may, through the chair, of being in the utility easement, other than the fact that Edison could come and dig it up at any time?
Yes, and also, if I might, through the chair, to Ms. Lesney, you have the issue with access to the back to even fight a fire. I mean, it's a pretty crowded area back there. We do not grant permits for items in an easement. We just don't, because what you're doing there is, if we grant the permit for it in the easement, and for some reason the owner or future owner, Edison comes through and says, I'm going to tear your shed down because I got to get back there and work, or whatever, consumers, whoever has to do that, the owner may come back to the city and say, wait a minute, who's going to pay for this? You approved it, you gave me a permit for it to allow it there, and Edison or whatever utility company tore it out, as they rightfully can. So who's going to pay for my,
Yeah, so I mean, if it
the
had to
redo of
move
my
out of the
shed?
easement,
I
it
just
needs
wanted
to move
a
forward.
more, you know, to,
Know what it
but
is.
even I'm looking at your plan, I mean, I went out to see your house and your neighbor, I
have
forgot how
pictures.
lovely that neighborhood is. I don't go there that often, it's kind of off the beaten path, and it's just really nice. And you keep your house very nice, and, but why can't the whole shed be moved another foot forward?
It can, that's what I'm doing. It's, if you look at these pictures here, I can show you what I'm planning to do. I've only got 4 sets, though.
Okay, we can share.
If I might, just to the appellant real quick, we didn't have all we had was just was
survey.
this. We didn't actually have anything with the shed drawn on it, so unfortunately, staff had to assume a few things, had to assume the width of it being 8 foot, being that we have 10.1 feet, meaning at the best we could do, right up against that wood deck would be 2 foot from the side property line. And then, obviously, it could slide, it could move itself towards the east, up farther, but, you know, which would get it out of that. There's one other issue with being less than 3 foot from the property line.
Mr.
Is
Turk,
the
you can hand them to us,
is
please.
the issue of rating that wall of the shed.
Thank you.
Issue of what?
Rating it for fire rating,
Oh, rating, okay.
What I have right
being less
I
than
think
3
flip over,
foot.
there's more.
So,
No, it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's the same there, but behind that. Starting with picture number 2. That shows from the street what it looks like.
Yeah.
The shed's in the back.
Yeah.
in that
Right.
corner. This is a closer shot of it.
Yeah, I saw your from the street I could see your barbecue, nice and shiny.
Now, this is close up. I'm moving that shed up to where it's somewhere in here to make sure that I have more space in the back.
So in line with the
It doesn't have that, the way it's sitting now, when I looked at and looked at what your requirements was, it was imposing on it. So I have room to move it up to where it's where the deck is. That, my plan was to make it parallel across the back. Here is what he's talking about.
Yeah,
That's
line
the
it up
back
to the
side.
deck.
I was going to bring it to here and bring it forward, but according to that, my deck is in the easement. The deck was there when I moved in. So I'm not totally confused now. What do I own here? If everybody can tear my...
if I might,
You can see the side view, that's what he's talking about.
The neighborhood is
Not much space there.
ladder.
But this fence was already there.
Yeah.
All this
Your-
was in place. I just put a new wood on the deck, but it was already there.
The barbecue is on the ground, isn't it? It's not on the deck,
It's on the deck.
it's on the deck?
In the corner.
I saw it in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
I saw
You
it.
said it? Okay,
I'm sorry.
No, I got it. I was looking over her shoulder.
okay. Do you have any other questions?
So
or-
what I was gonna do was bring it, if you look at picture number 7,
Looks like you're going to put up
I
some.
was gonna have the back of the shed up in here where it's underneath the easement, and bring it all the way up to
Okay,
the
are you guys listening?
side of the deck. I'm tearing down the rest of this, so that it will probably be flush with the front of my deck.
Okay.
And I'll go right from
I
my
got
my
that.
patio, be able to go into. So if you go back to page, picture number 2, here's a better, it'll be, the front of it'll be up here somewhere. And going back to the back of the deck. So I'm only adding about 40 more square feet or so under roof than what I've already got. This temporary shed there is what he mentioned is going to go. I don't have any place to put anything on the outside. If I, a 2.5 car garage is,
Okay, Mr. Friedman, any?
so
Yeah,
I have
thoughts
2
or
cars in
opinions?
it.
I would echo what my colleague, Mr. Rogers, said. I think that there's no question you can't be building in that easement. But as far as the other, the concerns, I think the zoning ordinance, as in terms of percentage of the property that can be covered, this property is a large home built on a small lot, and that's how it was built. I mean, I don't think the issue is the 1% or whatever that this shed would be adding to it. I'd like to see the old shed be replaced. As you know, one of the things I noted as I drove by was that you're sort of on a cul-de-sac. The people that might have an issue with this shed were all notified. Everybody in the cul-de-sac was notified, and how little of it you really can see from the front. So again, I have an issue with the easement portion. I think I'm a little concerned about the 3 feet from the side, but I think the person that'd be most concerned about was that your neighbor to the north, I think it was, and he's been notified and it does not seem to have an issue with it. I'm sure this new deck will be prettier than the old one. So again, except for the easement portion, I disagree with the city and go along with it, and go along with the waiver.
I think the request is actually minimal. I mean, I don't have a problem with a 1% request to upgrade something that he had when he moved in. So I agree with Mr. Rogers and Mr. Friedman that we need to get you out of the easement, and we want to, so it sounds like if we grant this, we need to grant it out of the easement and grant a setback too, correct?
If I might, to the chair and the board as a whole, I think staff would prefer, because of the issues with rating that wall of that shed at 2 foot, staff would prefer that you would get it out of the easement. I mean, obviously, there's a way to massage this deck in size. Now, mind you, we can obviously pull it out of the easement. That's not an issue. We can pull it forward, get it. I would absolutely not. We would not support it in the easement, and would really like to see if there was a way that we could get it at a 3-foot setback from that side property line. Because realistically, as we all know, I know every one of these cases sits on its own, but if you grant a setback to a shed easement of a minimum of 3 feet, which is a pretty small setback. I mean, that's a very minimal setback. There's nothing saying that the person next door could not come and get the same setback. Now you have only 4 feet between the two structures. So in granting it, sheds can be made various sizes, and I just think that staff's recommendation, if the board feels that they're going to grant some sort of a variance for a shed there, staff's recommendation would be out of the easement and at a 3-foot setback from the side yard.
Okay.
I think that's the way I drew the sketch. I didn't attach the sketch.
I don't have a sketch.
Okay.
This is the shed that I'm proposing.
I don't have any.
Okay, so we
Okay.
have, I think, all the information we need. Mr., do you have a question?
I
Mr.
do have a
Freeman?
question. What is the current setback for the shed that he has that's falling apart?
It's like 0.
It's
Zero?
it's
I mean,
right.
it's like,
If you
that's
look
like
at
a
one of those
small house.
pictures, it's right at the, yeah.
50.
I allow for 3 feet in my proposal,
I guess not.
and I thought that the deck was 3 feet offset. But as I see this survey I had done, the deck is, that edge of the deck is sitting 2 feet into the easement.
Yeah.
So if you're asking me to
Well,
start the
we're talking
shed,
about the
We're
other,
talking
so we're
about-
talking about the north side setback.
the north
We
side.
need you to be
From
3
the-
feet
from your
off the
neighbor.
property line.
Well, I can, 3 feet, the way it appears in the picture there, there's no setback where those sheds are now. They're
Correct.
right up against it. I'm proposing to have the 3 feet. That's what I saw the ordinance was.
Okay.
So my shed will go right up to the deck. Portion of it will be even on the deck. That's what I'm thinking, the one that I had. It'd be about 1 foot on the deck.
If I might, according to what you're showing me, I've never seen this drawing. This is the first time I've seen this drawing. You're showing a 7-foot by 15-foot deck, not the 8-foot that you wrote, so that is a little change.
That's the pad. I was going to bring the deck is the one I wanted to get is 8 feet wide, and I think I can have it sit on the pad and the about 1 foot onto the deck. It'll be made to grade.
No, we wouldn't allow that from a building code issue, because now you have a side of the shed that doesn't have a rat wall. if you're going to
There'll be a
project
rat
onto
wall
the
down
deck. Pardon?
There'll be a rat wall down that side of the deck. But do you know, I don't know if you know this, there's a pool under that deck. No? Well, that pool was abandoned, and it's still there. So I can't go but so far before I'm up against the wall of the pool.
Yeah, I mean, I
I'm
think
sorry,
what
sir,
the
this
board
is
is
all
willing to
information I
grant.
didn't
It's going
have.
to be solidly supported.
I mean, I think what the board is willing to grant is to grant you this additional lot coverage to replace the shed out of the easement and with 3-foot setbacks. So if you're willing to. Make it work. Yeah, make it work. That's up to you
make it
and the
work.
building department to make it work, but that's what we're willing to, I think, as I'm hearing from my colleagues, a majority of us are willing to approve that.
So if I might, looking at your drawing, sir, if you could, you know, there's a couple ways you can do this, but.
And you could look at a different size shed. He could look at a different size shed as well.
Yes.
So I don't care about.
So we would want the 3-foot, and we'd want it out of the easement in the back. And then size-wise, what square footage do we want to grant him? Do we want to keep it at the 7 by 15, which is,
Well, he might have.
That's not the size of the
Yeah,
shed
I was willing to
proposing.
grant to the 29.5 that you said was proposed.
actually, it was
It
30
was 8 by
point
15,
something.
wasn't it?
30.6.
30.6, which was
Does it say
adding the 8 by
30.6?
15
Right.
deck. So if you want to do the 120 square foot at however he makes that work, whether it makes it longer, which is what it would.
Yeah.
It'd be longer than the 15. But, you know, keeping that 3-foot, so if you wanted to give him the waiver of the 30.6% of lot coverage, with the shed being no greater than 120 square foot, and then you could put in there the conditions that it not be in any easement, which is the rear easement, and be a minimum of 3 feet from the north side property line, if that makes sense.
Since I submitted that, the shed that I was going to buy, I was going to get it on sale, but I held back until I found out if I got approval. When I checked, now they're not in stock. They make it 8 by 20. And now that's a longer shed, still the same.
Right,
same,
I think you can
width.
find, if you do a little more research.
If I can't,
You should be able to find one. I'm struggling to be able to get the problem is, even if you buy a shed that's an 8 by 15-foot shed, if you try and put it at a 2-foot setback, now you're going to have to rate that wall that faces that shorter setback, okay? Which is going to cost you a good amount of money to rate that wall. It'll probably be at least 1 or 2 layer of drywall on the inside to rate that wall for a fire rating, okay? As you don't meet the minimum setback that you're going to need.
are you telling me that this pre-engineered plastic shed is not going to be accepted, not passable?
No,
Does
no,
it-
I didn't.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
This discussion, we have, it's up to him to how he fits that in there. It's not up to you or
Okay.
up to us. What we need to do is to give him saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. Fit it in there. As she said, you can have 1 point, whatever it is, lot coverage. How you build it or how you do it is up to you, not Mr. Gardella or not our board.
And I'm willing to make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Friedman.
The appellant Gaylor Turk, the owner of the property, is requesting a waiver of lot coverage from the 25% allowed under the statute to 30.6% of coverage of his lot. The property is located on the west side of Plumbrook Drive between Lasher and Evergreen Roads at 23867 Plumbrook Drive, Sidwell parcel 2427-401012. I recommend that we approve the motion.
You move.
I move that we waive the requirement of in terms of the percentage increase in the lot coverage. However, that we do not waive the 3-foot the 3-foot setback on the north side of the property, and require that the shed not be built in the easement.
Okay, and no greater than 120 square feet?
And no
or do we
greater
not
than
care?
120 square foot of a shed. I recommend, I make this recommendation the following. No sheds can be allowed in the easement area, and the 3-foot setback is required without raiding the shed walls for fire safety.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, your request is granted with those restrictions. You'll need to work with the building department and staff to get your permit.
I get
Okay.
a copy of those.
When we, through the chair to the appellant, once the minutes are approved, you would get a copy of them.
Thank you.
Okay. That is the end of the public hearing. Discussion of upcoming meetings?
So we do have a December 3rd meeting. We have 3 cases on it, 2 signed cases and a fence case.
Okay.
We also, that is our year-end meeting again, so we keep it down to a minimum of, or maximum of 3 cases. We'll have the adoption of the calendar, the election of the officers, and I don't believe, although I will double check, if anybody would like a representative from the legal department here.
I don't have anything.
I don't.
So we won't be having anyone from the legal department.
Okay,
just have
sounds
that.
good. Any miscellaneous?
Well, I have
Oh,
one
I'm
other
sorry.
thing under that, upcoming meetings, the December 17th, is that right? December 17th, we don't have any cases for it, and we are past the deadline, so we would be asking the board to
Do we
cancel
want to
that.
cancel that now?
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to cancel the meeting for December 17th?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
So second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that meeting's canceled. Okay, any miscellaneous? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I make that move.
Can I have a second?
Sure. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.